Hello everyone and welcome back to Ratting Road. So today I'm going to be making a start on building the Freightliner depot up. I'm going to be creating the boundary between the main line and the depot itself. This video will mark the start of a new series for the channel, building the Freightliner depot. It will still be part of the layout progress part, but it will also just have its own playlist or whatever you want to call it to go with it, as it's going to be a main interest point on the layout anyway. So some of the things I'm going to be covering is ground cover, a bit of ballasting, foliage, and some detailing as well. So just to give you a run through. So I'm going to apply the ground cover from around the tunnel and then just go all the way along the side there, get that all started, and then the fence will stop around there somewhere. And then this will be the entrance point from the railway to get into the yard or whatever. So I want to do the ballasting and ground cover first, and then I'll do the fencing last, along with the last little other details as well. So I'm going to get cracking on with it, and I hope you enjoy watching it. So the first thing I'm going to do is just paint the whole area brown, paint the whole baseboard brown. And again, I'll do that just so the brown will then show up as soil when I come around to applying grass. So I'm going to get doing all that now. So I've just applied the paint to the baseboard and it's already more or less dry. There's still a few places where there's a bit more of the paint, so it's going to take a little while longer. But I'm just going to leave it all to dry and then come in the following morning. I got a smaller paintbrush and just went in between the main line and the siding there, and also closer to the ballast up there. And then also just filled a little gap down there as well. That's the paint I use, so it's the Woodland Scenic's Burnt Umber CL222, and it's the liquid pigment, just for those that were wondering. So I'm going to now come in and leave it and come in the following morning, and then I can crack on with some ballast and ground cover. Okay, it's the following day, and as you can see the pigment has now dried nicely, and it's made the baseboard a nice brown colour for when the time comes to apply some grass. So what I'm going to do is do a bit of ballasting first. I'm going to come up to around halfway on each straight, so around here and here and so on. I won't come all the way to the points just yet. I'm just trying to focus on getting the boundary in place first, so I'm not going to go too mad with the ballast. And then once I've done that, I'm going to then make a start on the ground cover up by the tunnel, and then just make my way down. And then once that's finished, then I can look at getting in the fence. So I've just finished applying the ballast for now. I came halfway up to each siding, as you can see, and then I just went over, done the usual method with a spray bottle of water and the PVA mix and washing up liquid. You may notice that when I sprayed it with the water, it changed colour and it became a lot darker. That is pretty normal for a lot of the ballasts, I believe. This stuff is a bit more coarse to what I normally use. That's because I found it the other day while digging some stuff out, and I just thought it'd be easier to use it up because in the current times it's hard to get hold of most things, so I just thought I'd use what I've got. So I'm now going to leave that a good 12-24 hours to partially dry before I move on to the next stage, applying the ground cover. And good timing too, because it's starting to blow a gale outside now and rain, and there's a bit of thunder as well, so I better get inside, and I'll see you all when I'm back in the shed. So I've just come in the following day and the glue's dried for about 18 hours or so a good not quite a full day, and it's all nice. It was nice and rock solid, so I just went over it with the track rubber just to clean the track and also tidy up the ballast in some areas where some had got stuck onto the insides of the rails, just to tidy everything up so everything runs good. So now I can happily proceed on to doing some ground cover. So as you can see, I've got a hell of a lot of gear with me at the minute to get this sorted. So I've got some paper towel just to cover up the main line and the overhead masts, just so I don't get scenery and static grass fibres everywhere. And then I've got the scenic materials, so some static grass, some scatter, some gravel in there, and some pigment to weather it down with, more static grass, and some bushes and clump foliage, and then various glues. So got a fair amount at my disposal. I'm going to make a start up by the tunnel first, then just make my way along, just cover it in some static grass and also some scatter, and then add some bushes to form the line where the fence will go against. And then I'm also going to put a narrow gravel path in as well from the crossing there next to the signal. So then it shows how the workmen will get to the relay box if they need to. So I'm going to get cracking on doing that. Okay, so you more or less get an idea on how I'm going to carry on, so I'm just going to continue off camera, because otherwise it'll get a bit boring and save a bit of time, and also give my phone a chance to charge up a little bit. So I'll be back with you shortly when I've finished all this. So I just finished doing all the ground cover and I came round to the depot entrance more or less. I filled the gap in between the siding and the main line next to it, and then I added a couple of old rails in the centre there, and then just have the grass growing up alongside it like so. I kept the grass relatively short because when you see grass in between tracks, it doesn't tend to be that long. And then the grass towards the back is somewhat thicker, more built up than everywhere else. I wanted the back there to be relatively quite built up in terms of foliage as well. So where all the other ground cover up there will be more or less as it is now, and then I'll just run along a load of bushes alongside where the fence will go. Over here I wanted it to be somewhat more built up, so the grass is heavier, and then I'm going to build it all up in terms of foliage as well, up against the fence once I've put that in. But what I'm going to do now is add the gravel path, and that's gonna, you can see where it crosses the track there, and it's going to go up to the relay box and then down here, and then that will act as where some drivers can access it as well. Where I use scatter, you can see where it has sort of created a path or mapped out a path already, and that's what I wanted it to do. It looks quite convincing as it is, but I'm still going to just apply all of the gravel just to make it stand out a bit better and actually make it look like a proper path. So I'm going to get cracking on with that. Okay, so that's all the gravel path now applied. So I came all the way down to there and up to the relay box. I'm really pleased with how that came out. When you try to do the path, it's basically like applying your ballast. So you sprinkle it down, and as you saw, I used a spoon to do that. And then you just cover the whole little area you want to do, or however big you want to do it. And then just use your fingers or something to make it flat. And when you're ready to apply the glue to it, just spray it with the water and then apply your 50-50 PVA mix. So yeah, essentially it is like you're applying some ballast to the ground, if you like. So what I'm going to do now, while I wait for that to go off, I'm going to start looking at this fencing I'm going to put in. Then I'll build that up, get it painted, and then by the time I come in tomorrow, I can then look at getting it installed. So this is the fence I'm going to be installing, the scale model scenery 2 metre Palisade security fencing. So that's going to go along the whole side of the main line, and it'll also go in front of the embankment as well to create the boundary for the car park. So I'm going to get this all put together and painted up, and then I can get it on the layout. So I've just finished putting together the scale model scenery kit, assembling it, painting it, and giving it all a weathering as well. Some of the fence panels I've really gone to town with the weathering, because that's where I want the for all the built up scenery to be. So this one here, that will be the one where all the scenery and bushes will be behind it or in front of it, whatever. So I can now get these on the layout now. So I've just finished putting in the fence. I did try filming it, but it just didn't turn out well at all. It was somewhat difficult to film and the fence installation didn't quite go as smooth as I thought anyway, so a couple of reasons why I didn't show it in the video. But if I just pan along, you can see where I've gone all the way along and then more or less followed the entire gravel path up there. So if I just come around here so you can see better. So you get an idea now how it looks. There's a few places that need to be sorted out along the whole of the fence, so just little patch ups, etc. And then what I'm going to do next, or now, is I'm going to add the pigment into the gravel path to make it look a bit more dirty. And then I'm just going to add some bushes along there just for a bit of interest and just build it up a little bit. And then also add some bushes along the side of the fence there next to the main line. I won't do anything on the depot side yet. I'll wait till all the scenery is done there. So I'm going to move on and do all that now. So I've just come in after doing the scenery last night and leaving the glue overnight to dry off. What I'd done off camera was put some PVA mix on top of the bushes in some places and just sprinkled light amounts of scatter and static grass on just to make them look a bit different and more wild in some areas. And then as you can see, I also put the pigment in as well on the gravel path, and I think that looks good. What I'd done off camera as well was apply all the bushes and pigment to the gravel path up the side there, because the angle would have been relatively difficult to film. I'm not going to put any bushes in between the path and the main line. I do like the effect of having some bare patches, and also the same applies up there, so there's a bare patch there. And I thought I'd leave bushes out of the corner as well, because I'd like to think that Network Rail would like to keep accessibility as much as they could. One idea I'm thinking of doing is adding some bushes to the left of the path behind the buffer stop, but again I quite like the idea of just leaving it with static grass, plus I do need to put an overhead terminating mast or pylon, whatever they're called, that go on the end of the siding. So this area is more or less there now, and then I'll obviously carry on with the path as and when, so there'll be a crossing over the entry line to the sidings. And then I'll have the gravel path going all the way up to there. So apart from that, this area is more or less done. So now that I've created the boundary for the depot, I can now get on making it, finishing the ballasting, doing the ground cover next to the tracks, and then get started on doing the car park. I won't add to this area much. I'm thinking of adding some detailing, like some old a pile of old sleepers behind the buffer stop, but nothing major, just to rather keep everything caked up with scenery and bushes, leave a bit more or less exposed if you like, just to keep it a bit more interesting and different. I think I particularly like now how the overgrown siding looks. It really does show that nature's taken over that side of the tracks, and it's slowly making its way up towards the point work. This more or less brings an end to the video. I hope you enjoyed watching it and learnt some useful tips, or it's given you some inspiration on what to do on your own layout. Again, I'll leave a link to the scale model scenery fencing kit in the description below. So it's goodbye from me, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care and happy modelling. Bye.